Well, hello and welcome to another DevNation Tech Talk. As you guys have seen before, if you've been to one of our shows before, we love talking about all forms of technology. And today we're going to deep dive into a technology called Kogito. If you're familiar with the Drools or jBPM background, in other words, if you know about declarative business rules, declarative business processes, and you've seen those technologies from us in open source before, we're going to have a lot of fun with that today, where it's been super optimized. And we have Rockstar with us right now. So let's turn it over to Maciej.
Hello, everyone. And why we think is important in today's business. So first of all, I think that it's, as Burr said, we come from the background of Drools and jBPM, and by that we are trying to utilize the business knowledge that you can gather throughout the different domains. And I believe that in almost anything, almost any domain, pretty much anything can be expressed as processes and rules. And usually business people are already doing that. So that's why you can see a lot of flow charts, flow diagrams, different decision tables, decision trees, and so on and so forth across the organization. So it's just a matter of recognizing those patterns and to be able to quickly avoid mistakes or minimize any repetition, and by that start automating your business. So we've talking about the business automation, which comes from kind of has origins from BPM or business process management. You can start looking at the orchestration versus choreography. Is it a centralized, a big process engine that needs to orchestrate everything, and you need to start having everything underneath that single element, or you can start distributing that and communicate with messages across the different participants. But in the recent times, we started to look at the microservices way of doing things. So then you start having a conversation between either conductor or reactor part. And again, either you start centralizing and orchestrating things or conducting, or you start reacting to things happening in your environment. But I would ask the question, why not use whatever actually fits the use case? So it's not that orchestration and choreography or conductor and reactor are mutually exclusive. You can actually combine both if you actually have the use case for that. So with that in mind, we started to look at the how we can bring in the new things into the cloud and native Java links, and we started a couple of months back with Kogito. You might have seen the Mario Fusco presentation about the journey we took to actually end up with Kogito, and how much it took to actually get it quite old and mature projects moving towards the native Java and being ready for the cloud native deployments. So maybe just before we dive into the Kogito itself and the event-driven business automation, a single sentence of what is Kogito and why the name is like that. So as you can see, the quote under the on the bottom of the screen is the Cogito ergo sum, which is a Latin which usually is translated to "I think, therefore I am." So we started to think that maybe we can take advantage of that as well, with uppercase obviously referring to Kubernetes, and Cogito ergo automate would simply translate to "I think, therefore I automate." So with that in mind, let's look at the Kogito itself, which we define it as cloud-native business automation for a kind of a toolkit that helps you to build intelligent application, because it's way more than just a business process or single business rule or bunch of business rules. And it's based on battle-tested capabilities. And one of them obviously will be jBPM and Drools, but it's not only that. We take advantage of other already proven technologies like InfiniSpan or Java itself, and now Quarkus with GraalVM and Substrate VM. So this is what brings us to the next level of the software solutions we can build on top of Java. So one of the most important things in the Kogito ecosystem, or in the way you build with Kogito, is the focus on the domain or on your business domain, rather than technology itself. Even though Kogito provides features built on top of processes and decisions and rules, it's not always that you need to take advantage of those. But if you start thinking from the business domain point of view. You can start abstracting from the technology underneath, and if needed, you can swap the technology later on once you go. So one of the most important things we have here is that our services do exchange information based on tailored events that are carrying mainly business relevant information, and defining business will mean different things in different contexts. For instance, in the case that we are going to the demonstration, you will start of visa application. But at the same time, other type of events will fly around the environment as well. So those are more produced by the runtime executions, meaning that you can start capturing information what actually happened and start deriving from it and building up an index of information that can bring you additional information on top of the application themselves. So without further delay, let's take a look at the use case we have here. So we have a startup travel agency called Kogito Travel Agency that tries to increase their online presence. So we have a few actors here. So we have a traveler, we have the visa officer, and then the travel assistant. And all of those people want to be informed as soon as they need to react on some kind of actions that are waiting for them. So first of all, we start with the overall architecture. So we have two main services. There is a Kogito travel agency service and then Kogito visas. Those are two microservices. One is the front end for the travelers to request travels, and that is just by specifying information about themselves, like the personal details and the travel destination, dates, and so on and so forth. The system itself will take advantage of the business rules defined as a decision table, and with that, we start pushing information if there is a requirement for visa or not. So those, and again, will be pushed out as events consumed by another service. As mentioned before, everything that the application do will trigger additional types of events that will be consumed again through Kafka topics to a third service, which is the sort of a supporting service of Kogito itself that captures the events and exposes them in the index way, so it is available for searches, advanced capabilities around the data itself. So let's see how it actually works and how it is built up. So first of all, we can take a look at the services themselves. So those are Quarkus-based applications. So just simply take a bunch of extensions like Kogito or reactive messaging, REST Easy, JSON, CDI, and so forth. The backbone of the application is actually a business process that is exposed as a service. When you look at the process itself, it has a bunch of nodes that you need to traverse, which defines the way the application is actually built up. And then we use the so-called process composition, so we can divide the actual business process into multiple steps or smaller pieces. And in that case, we have the book hotel and book flight are actually separate process definitions, which in our case are extremely simple. Just call a service, which is our Java CDI bean. Those are just returning a very simple static data for anything booking. Further, we will start enhancing that. We're having additional services that will communicate with through events with each other instead of having the call to the local service. But again, it shows as well that you can easily integrate with the underlying framework that you can build services and just invoke them from within the process definition as well. The other service that is responsible for visa applications are only initiated with the message event, and that message event is connected to a Kafka topic. So as soon as a message arrives at the Kafka topic, it will create a new instance of that process. Again, using the business rules to see if it can automatically approve a particular visa application, and if so, it simply ends the process. Otherwise, it asks the visa officer to actually approve it or reject it manually. The rules are extremely simple here. I can just zoom in a bit. So we have two rules for either visiting Australia or the US, and it's just based on the duration of your trip. It can be automatically approved. So if visiting Australia for less than 90 days, we get it automatically approved, or US, if it's less than 15 days, we get it approved as well. So we have the VS Code extension that actually brings up the modeling capabilities. So you can actually do the diagramming within your IDE. So this is one of the main messages of Kogito as well. So for developers, we wanted to make their configuration, UI, and HTML, JavaScript, and so on and so forth. So over this quick run through, let's see how it actually can be done. So let's put in, we can just quickly put my details. Let's see. And we want to go to US, let's say Boston. We just select some dates. And we start the trip. So what we got here is that the process has immediately started and go through the notes, and it actually said that there is a requirement for a visa. Obviously, I want to go to US and I'm a Polish citizen. I need to have a visa. You can take a look at the details of the trip itself. So you can see that neither hotel or flight has been already set or booked. So we can then take a look at the visa application. So visa application, we can simply apply for that. So again, a bit of information, who is going where, and then just ask for additional information. Let's say that we need to have, we want to go for the 30 days. So we will end up with the manual approval process. Well, once that is sent out, we get the information that the flight and hotel has been booked. And then if we go to a visa application, we should see my visa application here. So that came through the Kafka topic. And if you would like to see the details that it's actually through the Kafka topic, we can take a look at our visa applications, load the data. And here we go. So this is our event that came through Kafka. And we can then start looking at that from the visa officer point of view. So we have options either to approve or reject. Again, that's the decision to do. So we can actually reject. So I'm not going to go there as my visa has been rejected. Just to show it quickly here that the process itself at the moment is done on purpose, that it does not produce anything. The idea later on is to start enhancing it even more. So those events can produce events as well that are of business relevance. And by that, we could actually react in this main process that if we have already booked hotel and flights, we can directly start compensating those. And since we can compensate, we start removing the elements from it. All right, so we can actually take a look at the last step. And if we complete it, we have the travel request completed. But it's not all that we can actually see. Since everything is domain driven and the business relevant, we can actually take advantage of Grafana and the metrics that we expose. So as you can see here, it's not just that we have the basic information about how many travel requests, how many of them are opened, canceled, or completed. The interesting part is actually underneath that. So we have already direct information what services have been invoked or what rules have been applied. As you can see, quite more people wanted to go, or Polish citizens want to go to US than to Australia. And then we have another set of information that is actually coming not just from the generic metrics that the engine can expose. It's actually based on the actual data that the processes are handling or dealing with. So you can directly see that we have certain countries and certain durations. We have either visas approved or we have the visa rejected. So based on that information, you can start building up more and more insight into your business being automated. So going back to slides, what we could actually see here is that thanks to the domain specific information, or the business relevant data that are directly accessible, and they are not really hidden behind the processes or task or decision, we can actually take advantage of this information directly, because the system and the clients connected to it will talk immediately with the relevant information. It's not going to talk to the system or give me all process instances. No, it will ask for give me all travel requests open. So this is the main solutions. But at the same time, we can start deriving not only the business related information, but the domain specific information as well. So let me show you quickly how this looks like, because we have the data index service that exposes its data through the GraphQL. So for instance, from the travel assistant point of view, we wanted to take a look at the travels, right? So we want to see what travels we have. And since we want to look at the travels, we want to look at who is actually traveling. So let's take a traveler first name, last name, and let's say nationality. So we can already start taking that out of the system. As you can see, we have my travel request being there, but we want to see where people want to go as well. So we'll take a look at the trip. And since we have the trip, we can see the country, city and country, for instance. And let's see if we need a visa there or not. So as you can see, a person named Henry Jones from Germany do not have a visa to go to Detroit in US. But everyone else that is with Polish citizenship then needs to have the visa. So this is already showing information directly on the domain itself. But the domain information are also capturing the process instances. So for instance, we want to see what process instances have been executed there and in what state they are. So for instance, I just wanted to see here. So we can see that this travel has been executed by the travels process, and it's in state completed. Then if we need a visa and we did additional operations, we have the flight booking that is all completed as well. Same goes when we want to show, for instance, the visa applications. Again, all domains, all services push out those events that are captured and indexed, so we can actually take advantage of this as well. So we want to take a look at the visa application. So let's see who is actually sending the visa. Again, nationality, and let's say passport number. Yet all of those information come from the index, so it's extremely fast, accessible, and you can fine-tune, start doing searches across the different operations, the different data. And last but not least, we have the technical information. So we can, for instance, want to see process ID, and we want to see what kind of nodes have been executed there. And here we want to see the name and type, for instance. All right, so you can see the flight booking process, what nodes have been executed. If you look at the travels process, which is a bit more complex, then you have this information as well. All the information that you need are there, and you can you're in, so to say, behind the driving wheel, so you decide what you want and how you want to get delivered to you. And since we mentioned that the Kogito is the cloud native toolkit for building intelligent application, we do design it from the very beginning to run at scale. So we target definitely the OpenShift, Kubernetes, key native environments, and to make sure that we are there as treated as a first-class citizen, we build up the operator as well with an intuitive CLI on top of that. So what I presented today, you will be able to do with pretty much 3 commands. One that will simply create a new application for you. So it will set up everything that it's required, like for instance, provisioning the Kafka if not there, or InfiniSpan for persistence, SSO once we start securing the services, and so on and so forth. So everything that is required to run within the Kogito ecosystem, it will be provisioned automatically for you, so you don't have to fine-tune it. But at the same time, if you have a need to actually do some configuration, you will be able to do those configurations over dedicated operators, like for instance the Kafka operator, InfiniSpan get started, but then to those two services, you will just have the Kogito deploy and just specifying the Git location of where the application is, and we'll do the source to image for you and deploy that in whatever mode you like. If you want to run in a native image mode for Quarkus, that's exactly what I'm doing here. So let me just quickly show you this. All right, so let me just zoom this in. So we have our two native images created for those services, and they are pretty much of 64 megabytes of size. That includes all the extensions that we have there, meaning that we have the Kafka, we have the InfiniSpan, we have Kogito, we have CDI, REST Easy, JSON. So it's quite a lot of things to power it up, but at the same time, it's still of quite small size. Right, so wrapping up a bit, so if you want to get started, I definitely recommend to scan the QR code here to visit our website, where you can find quite a lot of information, even though it's still early days for us. But yeah, have a look at the Getting Started guide or the community, where I encourage you to join our mailing list to stay up to date, and look at the wiki, or yeah, just report, share your feedback, or just simply go to Quarkus website, where we have the Kogito guide that gives you a quick run through what you can do with Kogito and how simple you can get started. So with that, open up for questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're back on. Fantastic. So there is a question I have right out of the gate, and that is, I saw what you did with Grafana there, and I'm used to using Grafana in the context of Kubernetes and OpenShift. What is the backend data structure to support that Grafana, and then of course support the GraphQL thing that you did?
Yeah, so when it comes to Grafana, it's all based on the Prometheus metrics. So the services themselves expose the metrics in the Prometheus format, so they are just simply collected and used for building the dashboards of Grafana. And when it comes to the data index service and the GraphQL, so this is utilizing InfiniSpan with the data index of the Lucene index on top of it, and then we simply get the data from the index in the domain-specific way and expose through the specific GraphQL queries.
And all of that's being served out of the single compiled to native binary that you compiled with Quarkus?
The data index is running in JVM mode. It's still a Quarkus application, and the reason for that, it's aimed to be a long-running service. So it definitely will perform better in JVM mode. But if needed, it can be run in the native image mode as well.
Okay. And there was another question that came up early in the conversation around your use of Visual Studio Code. When will that be available to the rest of us?
Very soon. We are about to release the first alpha version. So hopefully within a couple of days, we will wrap it up and make it available for public consumption.
Okay. And then Alex nicely posted on the chat your URL specifically to this travel agency demo application. People were very curious about how to get their hands on the demo application. So that's good. We got that covered there. On your GitHub, right? In your GitHub repo, that's where that demo application exists. Yeah. And then the recording will get released. That's another common question. We will have a recording out within a day or two. It sometimes takes 24, 48 hours to get the recording out for the session. Another question I, though, had for you related to Kogito in particular. What are the different types of modeling languages that you're supporting now? I saw BPMN2 there. I saw DRL. What other types of modeling languages do you have for rules and processes?
Yeah, so right now, as you said, we have BPMN2 for processes, DRL for the sort of freehand rule authoring. We are about to add DMN and the decision tables there. We're starting to look at the serverless workflow specification as well. So this is the JSON representation for processes. So there will be more coming as well. So if you have anything that you find interesting, let us know. We definitely wanted to take your feedback and look what is actually in demand for modeling. So,
do we still have support for crafting your own DSL, domain-specific language? Oh, we think, okay. And we broke up a little bit there, so hopefully we get you back where I can hear you again.
Can you hear me now?
Could be on my end. There we go. That's better.
Shall I answer the question once again?
Yes.
Yeah, so it comes to DSL. Then again, we wanted to have the Kogito to be demand-driven. So if there is a demand, we definitely want to look at it. Although right now we don't support DSL in the form that it was in the previous version of Drools. Although you might want to, you might look at the what we call executable model to be sort of DSL as well. So this is like a Java DSL for rules or processes.
Okay. And then there's another question related to what is the Kogito relationship to Red Hat? And of course it's an open source community project. Alex is chatting with some people there on the chat, but what would you say about Kogito? What was the design input? What was the theme? What was the emphasis for why we came up with this new name, new brand, new idea?
Yeah, so it's definitely the next generation. So why we started it as a new initiative is to not too much disrupt the current implementation or the current projects at customers, because that is a big shift right now. So I usually compare it like EAP and Quarkus, and that is what is jBPM and Drools and Kogito. So it takes advantage of all the experience we gained throughout the years that we built Drools and jBPM. But at the same time, we wanted to take the opportunity and drop some things that we see are not really suitable anymore. Like, for instance, relational database, which we had the persistent base on in jBPM. But now we are moving towards like key value stores with the default implementation of Infinispan that fits much better the cloud native ecosystem, so to say.
Great point. That is fantastic. And I love what you said. One of your opening phrases was, it's a cloud native toolkit for building intelligent applications.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we're basically out of time at this point. Thank you so much for that presentation. I love the demonstration. And so we do need to kind of go ahead and wrap things up. Oh, there's one more question from Mohammed. Let's see if we get to it. I don't get the idea of how Kogito relates to Kubernetes. Can you kind of bring those two worlds together and explain what we did there?
Yeah, the whole point of bringing them together is that the business automation is needed everywhere. And one of the main themes of Kogito is, we had like three main themes, is Kogito Ergo Domain to focus on the domain aspects of your business. Kogito Ergo Powers to empower developers and business users with all this information I presented today. And the third theme is Kogito Ergo Cloud, which means that if you think about your business, think about cloud, because this is where it actually happens. There is no turn back for it. So that's why we wanted to bring in the business automation, which are processes, decision, and rules, to be as lightweight as possible, as fast as possible, to actually fit the needs of the cloud requirements.
Okay, definitely ultra fast, ultra small, running in that context of a Linux container, dynamically scaled out across the cloud, makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
All right, again, thank you so much for your time. It was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed the demo. I'm gonna have to find a way to copy it for myself. And I do look forward to getting my hands on those Visual Studio Code extensions there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.